Today we're going to be looking at a ton of bootleg Mario plushes that were made for the game Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Now, since Super Mario Bros. Wonder is an extremely popular game, there's obviously tons of different plushes for it made by bootleg companies to make a lot of money, obviously. And well, since the release of the game, they've released over 30 different plushes for the Super Mario Bros. Wonder sort of plush set, even though it's not really a plush set, it's more just like a ton of different plushes released by a bootleg company. And what I do have to say, for bootlegs, they're actually pretty high quality. And unlike most bootlegs, they can't really fall apart that easily. So yeah, that's one really good thing about these bootleg plushes. So yeah, with all that said, welcome to a look at the Super Mario Bros. Wonder plushes. Starting off, we have the Elephant Mario. Now, this Elephant Mario plush actually looks really good as well. The embroidery on the face is pretty high quality and but overall looks pretty accurate. All the hat is just a normal Mario hat, and it actually seems to be stolen from the All-Star Mario as well, but literally looks the exact same. So they probably just stole the pattern from an All-Star Mario plush and just put it on this one, but it still looks pretty good, obviously. And for the trunk on these plushes, they're actually really nicely stuffed and can't really get understuffed that easily. And the embroidery on the front of the trunk also looks pretty good and it's overall just a pretty good looking face for an Elephant Mario plush. It's obviously not as high quality as the Snail Elephant Mario, but that makes sense as this one was made even before the game was released. As soon as trailers came out for this game, people immediately started making these Elephant Mario plushes. But yeah, the overalls on this plush is actually pretty high quality as well, but it actually has some stitching on the outlines of them, which is a really rare thing for bootleg plushes to put this much detail onto them. And the buttons are one of the only parts of the plush that could get damaged besides the hat, as the hat could get unstitched from the head. But yeah, the buttons could come off the overalls as they're only glued on, so they could fall off if you don't really take good care of the plush. But yeah, all the proportions on the Elephant Mario plush look pretty good and it's really nicely stuffed, so it can't really get understuffed in any part of the plush, and overall it just looks really nice. And I have to say, especially for the bootleg companies, they actually did a really good job making these plushes. As not only does it look accurate to the game, it's also really high quality. And every single plush that I go over in this video is very easily findable on eBay and AliExpress. And you could buy this Elephant Mario plush for around $12 usually. Moving on, we have the Elephant Luigi. Now, I don't really have a lot to say about this plush as it's literally the exact same as the Elephant Mario, except the colors are switched. And they didn't even change the mustache on this plush as well, but it literally has the exact same mustache as Mario, which is obviously not supposed to be like that, as Luigi has a different mustache than Mario. So yeah, all they did is just take the Elephant Mario plush and just put on a Luigi hat and change the colors to a darker blue overalls and obviously a green shirt. So yeah, that's literally all there is to say about this plush. It's just a blatant copy of the Mario, but it kind of makes sense as bootleg companies are trying to spend as least money as possible to make as many plushes. So it makes sense that this plush is just a blatant copy. Moving on, we have the Elephant Peach. Now, this plush's eyes are actually really nicely embroidered on and they actually look pretty accurate. The crown is also nicely stitched onto the head and it could actually get damaged as it could get bent pretty easily. But from the looks of it, it actually doesn't seem to be able to get unstitched from the head unless if you purposely unstitch it. So yeah, it'll seem that it'll just stay there, it could just get bent easily. The earrings are made out of a felt material and they could fall off because they're only glued on, and they could also get bent because they're hanging off of the ears. And the trunk on this plush is the exact same as Mario and Luigi's, except it's just pink. And this plush's dress does look pretty good. It doesn't have the gem on the middle of it, but besides that, everything else is accurate. And once again, this plush is actually really high quality, and most parts of the plush will also hold up really well. Moving on, we have the Elephant Daisy. Now, for the face on this plush, they obviously just used the exact same pattern as the Peach plush, but they actually changed a lot of other details and didn't just copy the exact same plush like they did with Mario and Luigi. As you could tell that the crown is the exact same, it just has some iron-on differences on it, so it's literally not like the exact same as the gems on the crown have these little flower-like things around them. And the earrings on this plush are also changed because kind of look like a flower outline on them, and they're also still made out of felt, so they could fall off pretty easily and get bent. But yeah, they actually did a pretty good job changing most of the details on this plush to make it not just look exactly like the Peach Elephant plush. And they also changed the dress on this plush to make it look more accurate to Daisy, and they did a pretty good job with that. As they basically changed all the necessary details on this plush to make it look more like Daisy. Moving on, we have the Blue Toad Elephant plush. Now, this is a pretty strange one as well. There's no actually other colored Toad Elephant plushes. And instead of just making a normal Toad Elephant plush, they decided to make a blue Toad one for whatever reason. But yeah, this plush does look pretty strange as well. The embroidery on the face looks good, it just kind of doesn't have a lot of details. Well, Toad is a character with not a lot of details, so it makes sense why it looks like that. And well, they did a pretty good job stuffing the cap on this plush to make it the Toad's head look more stuffed, and it looks pretty nice. The jacket on this plush could get unstitched from this plush really easily, as well, but it's only stitched on by a few threads, and well, it could fall off pretty easily. So there's one pretty bad thing about this plush is well, the coat could get damaged, but it can't fully come off, as well, but for some reason one of his arms are pointing up in the air. And I don't know why his arm is doing this as well, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense as well. There's only one other elephant plush that is like this, so yeah, I don't really know why they did that. As well, I think it would have just looked better if his arm was normal like the other arm, and well, in my opinion, it would just look a lot better for the plush. But yeah, the rest of the Toad Elephant plush looks pretty good, and it seems to be pretty high quality, except for the stitching on the coat. And well, for some reason on most eBay listings that have these Super Mario Bros. Wonder plushes, you can't actually find this one. As well, out of the 3 main listings I found for these Mario Bros. Wonder plushes, he was only in one of them for whatever reason. Moving on, we have the Toadette Elephant plush. Now, one thing that you'll immediately notice about this plush is it basically looks the exact same as the blue Toad Elephant. As well, the face is the exact same, except the colors are just obviously changed, and same thing with the cap on the top of the head. And well, the only difference with the arms is that the color is changed, and also the opposite arm's pointing up. As well, the right arm on the blue Toad plush was pointing up, while the left one's pointing up on this Toadette plush. So yeah, that's just one really small change that I noticed about this, and I honestly don't know why they did that as well, but it doesn't really change a lot. I think it would have just looked better if the arms were normal. And well, once again, the coat really isn't that well stitched onto the plush, and it could fall off pretty easily, except for the arm stopping it from being taken off as well as pointing up in the air. And well, the rest of the Toadette plush looks pretty good. The clothes seem to be pretty high quality and can't really get damaged. Moving on, we have the Bowser Elephant. Now, this plush is actually a newer plush, and well, this plush looks pretty weird. As well, I've never seen a depiction of Bowser as an elephant, but for some reason this plush decided to do that. And one really creative thing about this plush is that it actually has horns coming off of the elephant's trunk, which actually looks really good. And there's one really unique detail that I noticed about this plush, which is small, but it still looks pretty good. And well, the stitching on the eyes also looks pretty good, and the eyebrows are kind of look weird as though they kind of form together and create a weird looking unibrow. Although the majority of the time on this plush, the face is just way too small to fit 2 eyebrows, and they end up just combining together, which ends up kind of making it look like the eyebrows are combined together, but usually one's just a lot higher than the other one, and it goes over it for some reason. But yeah, the hair is pretty nicely stuffed, and there's really no details on this plush that could get damaged. As well, the cuffs are really nicely placed around the arms, so unless if you just purposely unstitch them for whatever reason, they can't come off. And well, the shell on this plush is the exact same as basically every other Bowser plush that was made. And well, same thing with the tail. But yeah, this is definitely a really unique plush as well. I've really never seen any other depictions of Bowser as an elephant. So yeah, it's definitely a really unique plush, and it looks pretty good. Moving on, we have the Balloon Mario plush. Now, Mario's face for some reason just looks weird. I don't know if it's the embroidery on the eyes or something, but it's just something making the face look weird in my opinion. And it could just be the way his face is shaped or something, but for some reason his face just kind of looks off, and I can't really tell you a specific reason why. It just kind of looks off, especially compared to the higher quality Snail plushes. But yeah, the embroidery on the face seems to be pretty high quality, and the mustache also seems to be really nicely made as well as really nicely stitched and has all the correct lumps on it. His face is really round as well. Obviously, since he's a Balloon Mario power-up, he's obviously supposed to be round. And well, Mario's hat actually seems to be a lot more low quality than the Elephant Mario's for some reason. I don't really know why they didn't use just the exact same hat, but this one seems to just be a lot wider and a lot weirder looking. It also seems to just be more understuffed, so that could be one of the reasons why. And it could also just matter on quality control, as some look good and some look bad. And well, for Mario's overalls, they look pretty good, and well, the buttons could obviously fall off because they're only made out of a felt material and they're only glued on. And well, the rest of the Mario plush is really nicely stuffed to make him look more round, and well, it looks pretty good. Obviously, his arms and feet look pretty weird as well. He literally doesn't have any legs because he's the balloon power-up, so yeah, it looks pretty cool looking. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting plush, and it's pretty weird that they decided to make this plush out of any power-up that they could have made. As well, there's much cooler power-ups in Super Mario Bros. Wonder that they could have used, but for some reason they made this one. But yeah, it's definitely still a pretty interesting plush. Moving on, we have the Luigi. Now, just like the Elephant Luigi, I don't really have much to say, but they weren't as lazy with this one, as well. They actually changed the mustache to make it look more accurate to Luigi. But besides that, all the rest of the details are the same, and well, the only detail that really needed to be changed was his mustache, as well Mario and Luigi basically look the exact same. So all they did was change the hat and change the colors of the overalls and his shirt. And the buns could still obviously get damaged pretty easily. Moving on, we have the Balloon Peach. Now, Peach's face is very clearly stolen from the All-Star Peach plush, as well it basically looks the exact same, just slightly lower quality. You know, the earrings are made out of a felt material, and the same thing with the sides of the hair, as well they could get bent pretty easily since they're only made out of felt. You know, her crown is the exact same as the Elephant Peach plush, and well, it's only stitched on, so it could possibly get damaged, but I doubt it unless if you purposely damage it as well, but seems to be pretty nicely stitched on. And well, the jewel is actually on this plush in the middle of the dress, and it could actually fall off because it's only made out of a felt material and not stitched on. And well, the rest of the Peach's dress looks pretty good, and it looks pretty accurate to the game. This plush is also really nicely stuffed, so it will keep its rounded shape. But yeah, it's definitely a pretty strange plush, but it still looks pretty good for what they were going for. Next up, we have the Balloon Daisy. Now, this plush looks a lot weirder on the face than Peach's plush, as though for some reason the head is just really small and basically combines to the body. As though for some reason Daisy just doesn't have a chin at all, and it looks really weird. And well, since the head is really small, all the details are kind of squished into one spot, so it ends up making the plush's face look pretty messy looking, and sometimes the embroidery could just be way too close to each other, mattering on which plush you get, as well the quality control isn't the greatest. You know, the earrings on this plush could pretty easily get damaged. They're the exact same earrings used on the elephant plushes, but just smaller, obviously. You know, the earring design is the exact same as the design of the jewel in the middle of the dress, so they look the exact same. You know, honestly, the jewel in the middle of the dress might be the exact same as the elephant plush's earrings, as though they're around the same size. And while the crown on this plush is the exact same as the Elephant Daisy plush, and is really nicely stitched on, but it could get bent. You know, they obviously changed the necessary details for the dress, and while overall for what they were going for, the plush looks pretty good besides the face, as though the face just still looks really weird. Moving on, we have the Elephant Apple. Now, this is a power-up you would eat to turn into Elephant Mario or whatever character that you were using. You know, but I have to say, they actually did a really good job with this plush, and in my opinion, is one of the better looking plushes in the set, as well. It's a very simplistic design, but I think they did a great job with it. I also really like the shade of red that they used on this plush as well. I think it looks better than the Mario plush as well. They used a slightly different shade of red for the Mario plush as well. I really like this one a lot more. And well, the embroidery on the eyes are pretty high quality, and same thing with the stem as well, but has a bit of stitching in the middle of the leaf to give it a bit more detail, and it's on both sides. And the ears on the side of the apple are the exact same used on the elephant plushes, except they're just smaller, obviously. And well, the trunk on this plush is really nicely stuffed, and since it has a curve to it, it's always going to face to the right. And well, I do really like how they transitioned the white to the red on this plush, and well, I think they did a great job with that. So yeah, basically every single detail on this plush is accurate and is pretty high quality. And it makes sense that every detail on this plush is accurate, as well as pretty simplistic. But it's still definitely a really nice one. It is obviously a lot cheaper than most plushes in the set, as well, but it's just a lot smaller. Next up, we have the Drill Mario. Now, the stitching used on Mario's face is basically the exact same as the stitching on the Balloon Mario plush, but it looks a lot better as the face is smaller, so the details fit in a lot more. And well, Mario's hair is pretty nicely stuffed, and in my opinion, it looks pretty good. And well, the drill on the top of his head is nicely stitched on, so unless if you purposely take it off, it can't really be accidentally unstitched from the plush. You know, but it actually looks really nice as well. To define the layers on the drill, it has a bit of stitching on the sides of it, and it looks pretty good in my opinion. You know, the drill doesn't actually seem to have any stuffing in it, it just seems to be a normal plush material with no stuffing. The bottom of it might seem to be stuffed because, well, the hair under the plush makes it seem like it's actually stuffed. You know, the overalls on this plush look pretty good. Obviously, the buttons could fall off because they're only glued on, and they're also made out of a felt material, so they could collect debris and dust. And every single other detail on this plush looks really good, and his shoes are really nicely stuffed so they could continue standing up. You know, that also goes for basically every single other plush in the set, like the elephant plushes. But yeah, this is definitely a really good power-up Mario plush, and it's one of 3 power-up Mario plushes in the set, as well you have the Drill Mario, the Elephant Mario, and the Balloon Mario. Moving on, we have the Fire Peach. Now, you could just immediately tell by looking at this Peach plush, this is basically just a bootleg of the All-Star Peach plush, except it's just changed the colors of the dress. And overall, the rest of the plushes is kind of low quality compared to the All-Star plush, obviously, because it's a bootleg. The stitching on the face is the exact same as the Balloon Peach plush, and the earrings and the side of the hair are also made out of a felt material, so they could get pretty easily damaged. The crown on the top of the plush could get damaged because it's only stitched on. It could get unstitched from the plush if you don't take good care of it. As well, for some reason on this plush, the crown seems to be slightly less stitched than the other Peach plushes. I don't know really why they did that, but it just seems to appear to be easier to take off. The jewel in the middle of the dress is made out of a felt material. It could easily fall off because it's only glued on. The dress is basically the exact same as the All-Star Peach plush, but slightly lower quality, and obviously the colors are changed to make it look like a Fire Peach plush. But yeah, it's definitely not the worst Peach plush out of the Super Mario Bros. Wonder plushes, but it's also not the best. And for probably the worst Peach plush in the set, we have the Ice Peach. Now, I really have no idea why they changed this plush's face, as the face on the other one looked fine. As while it did look slightly lower quality than the All-Star plush, this one just looks horrible. As the face is just really skinny, and it also just seems that the embroidery just isn't too good on this plush, as the eyes are just way too close together and everything is just kind of squished together. The earrings on this plush are made out of a felt material, and for some reason the sides of the hair are basically stitched onto the plush's face, so it ends up making the plush look really weird. The crown on this plush is the exact same as the Fire Peach plush, and it's not as well stitched on. Peach's body is just a lot skinnier than the Fire Peach plush, as they just use kind of a skinny version of the Peach for whatever reason. The jewel in the middle of the Peach plush is once again made out of a felt material, so it could get damaged. The dress on this plush basically looks the exact same as every other Peach plush, except the colors are just obviously changed to make it look like an Ice Peach plush. Moving on, we have the Yawning Goomba. Now, this plush basically uses the exact same pattern as the All-Star Goomba plush for the feet and the body. And for the face shape, it basically uses the exact same, but the embroidery on the face is all unique. As the mouth is obviously really big since it's yawning, and the teeth are nicely stitched onto the mouth, and the mouth is kind of made out of a feltish material, but not fully felt. It's kind of like in between a plush material and a felt material. And the eyes have some nice stitching on the outline of them, and the eyes are mostly made out of a plush material for the eyelids, and there's a bit of stitching on them as well. The only really bad detail about this plush is the eyebrows, and not because they look bad, mainly just because they're hanging off of the plush and they're only glued on, so they could get bent. But I would actually say they did a great job with this plush, and it makes sense because it's a pretty simplistic plush because it's just a Goomba but yawning. And for the next Goomba, we have the Goomba with the Yoshi Eggshell. Now, this Goomba looks a lot more similar to the All-Star one than the last one did, as it basically uses the exact same mouth, except the mouth can't open because it has no cardboard on it and the teeth are stitched on. So it's basically just a more simplified version of the All-Star Goomba for all the lower half of the details, but the eyes are actually unique, as they make more like a shock expression. And the eyes are nicely stitched on, the Yoshi Eggshell also looks to be pretty nicely made. The dots on the eggshell are actually made out of an iron-on material, so they could get cracked and damaged. For the actual eggshell piece is just stitched onto the Goomba's head, and it seems to be really nicely stitched on, so unless if you purposely take it off, it'll basically just stay on. Moving on to the final Goomba variant, we have the Goomba Brat. Now, this plush uses the exact same legs as the other Goomba, but once again, all the details on the face are unique. As the mouth is completely unique, and was mostly made out of embroidery and plush material. And the eyes are nicely stitched on, so it looks like he's actually screaming because his mouth is open. And they actually did a really good job showing that he was in a shocked expression or like a screaming expression with his eyes, and I really like the details used on them. And on the top of his head, whatever it is supposed to be, it might be hair or something, but I don't really know. It's really nicely stuffed anyways. Overall, all three of these Goomba variants and plushes are actually really nicely made, especially on the face, as though they had a lot more time to put detail on it, as though there's no really other details on a Goomba plush. And they're also all really nicely stuffed, and they're pretty well made. Next up, we have the Pomin. Now, Pomlin's face basically looks like any other normal Toad plush, and was embroidered on pretty nicely. And the top of his head also has some really nice embroidery on it, and the colors actually look really well, and they blend together pretty nicely as they switch, and they look pretty good. And basically every single detail on this plush basically looks perfect to the game. His hands have some extra stitching on them to make it look like he has fingers. And well, his shirt is made out of a normal plush material and overall looks pretty accurate, and it isn't stitched onto any part of his body, just his neck. And well, his feet are really nicely stuffed so he continues to stand up. So yeah, overall this plush is really good quality, and well, it's also the only Pomin plush that you could get, and well, it looks really good. And there was very few details that they probably could have improved on this plush, as well obviously companies like Snail could have made a better Pomin plush, but for a bootleg it's actually really good. Next up we have the Rollo Koopa. Now you could obviously tell just by this Koopa's face is obviously based off of the All-Star Koopa plush. And well, it's literally basically an exact copy of the All-Star Koopa, as well there's barely any details that are changed about any part of this plush besides the shell and obviously the roller skates on it. As well, the face and the arms are literally the exact same as the All-Star Koopa plush, and there's really no differences between the two besides the quality of them. So that's obviously the main reason why this plush looks really good, and well, it uses the exact same shell design except the shell's pink instead of a green color. So yeah, the only really unique detail on this plush are the roller skates, and well, they actually look pretty good. The top of the roller skates are just his normal shoes, but the bottoms of them actually are unique, and well, it makes them look like wheels. And well, the wheels on the bottom of the plush are just all stitched onto the bottom of it, so it could technically get unstitched, but that's pretty unlikely to happen, as well these plushes are pretty high quality, especially for bootlegs. So yeah, this plush is actually really good, but that's only because every single detail on this plush besides the roller skates are stolen from Snail. Moving on, we have the Hoppo. Now, Hoppo's face is actually really good as well, but has a pretty accurate looking design for what his face is supposed to look like, and is pretty nicely stitched on. And well, the only detail on this plush that could really get damaged are his teeth, as well since they're made out of a felt material, they could get bent and also collect debris and dust, but since they're really small, that's pretty unlikely to happen. And well, his head is pretty correctly shaped and it looks pretty nice and is also well stuffed just like the rest of the plush. And well, all the colors on the top of this plush are pretty accurate looking, and his feet are basically the only part of this plush that could get understuffed, as well since they're pretty small, they could get understuffed in the middle of them. But yeah, besides the teeth and also the legs potentially getting understuffed, the rest of the plush is great, and there's basically no parts of the plush that could get damaged besides those two details. Next up we have the Snail. Now, the Snail's face actually looks pretty good, as well the eyes and the eyebrows are nicely stitched on, and his ears or whatever they're supposed to be on the top of his head look pretty nice, as well the color switched pretty nicely, and I think it looks pretty good. There's also some lumps on the bottom of his chin, which give a bit more definition to the plush, and it also makes it look a bit more accurate. And well, besides the details on the face, there's really no other details on the plush. I do actually really like the shell though, as well the stitching on the side of it make it look like a squirrel, which is obviously accurate to the game, and in my opinion it looks pretty nice. So yeah, that's definitely a really subtle detail that you could barely notice because the stitching's the exact same color as the shell, but it still looks pretty good, and I'm glad that they did that. Next up we have the Skedatter. Now, this plush's face has some pretty nice embroidery, and I do like how they made him look pretty accurate to have a shocked expression. As in the game, when you originally walk up to these guys, they have this sort of shocked expression on their face, which is accurately represented by this plush. And while the rest of the plush is really nicely stuffed, especially his cheeks as well, since the cheeks actually spanned out a little bit further than the rest of the body, it actually gives it a nice detail to have them more stuffed. But yeah, all the details on this plush are correct, as well the inside of the ears are like a brownish red color like they're supposed to be, and same thing with his feet and his fingers. And while there's actually really no details on this plush that could get damaged at all, and while overall it's just a really accurate looking plush, just like basically every other plush in the set. Next up we have the Bulrush. Now, the embroidery on the face is actually really good as well, but accurately represents the expression of the Bulrush in the game. And while the Bulrush's horns are also really nicely stuffed, and they're also the correct dark blue color instead of being a light blue color like the rest of the Bulrush. And while the top of the head has a bit of stitching on it to give it a bit more detail, and it also has some lumps on the top of his head to make them look more accurate to the game. And well, just like the Hoppo, the legs are basically the only part of the plush that could get damaged, also the legs could get understuffed for the same reason as the Hoppo. But yeah, one thing that I noticed about basically every single one of these enemy plushes is, well, they're extremely accurate looking. Which is actually extremely impressive for a bootleg company to make some actually good looking plushes, especially when there's no other official counterparts to them. And so there's literally no other Bulrush plushes. I looked for some custom ones, but they basically don't exist. So yeah, the bootleg companies actually had to make a full unique Bulrush plush. So yeah, it's actually pretty cool that they made a pretty accurate looking one. And well, one thing to note about all these enemy plushes is that they're slightly cheaper than the rest of the plushes like the Balloon Mario or the Elephant Mario, as well they're slightly smaller so they cost less. Moving on, we have the Bluebird. Now the stitching on the eyes and also the outline of the eyes look pretty good, and while I do like that the eyelids are separate pieces of plush material as well, it gives it a more 3D look and it actually looks pretty nice. But one bad thing about the plush is that they could actually look pretty weird, mattering on the quality control of the plush that you get, as well sometimes one's just slightly lower than the other one, giving it a weird look. But yeah, the beak of this plush is an accurate color and it looks pretty nice in my opinion. It is also really well stuffed, so the point of it can't really get understuffed. And while the rest of the body is pretty accurate looking and his feet are nicely stuffed so he continues to stand up. And while the wings on the side of the plush are actually just part of the plush itself, so they kind of look weird as well. Basically they're attached to the plush. I think it would have looked better if the bottoms of them were like detached from the plush as well. I think it would have looked better, but besides that, basically every single other detail on this plush looks great. Next up we have the Conart. Now the eyes are nicely stitched onto the plush and they have a very distinct look to them, which makes them more accurate to the game. I also do like how the outline stitching for the eyes is a red color, so it blends in with the rest of the face. And well, just like the Bluebird, the beak is actually really nicely stuffed, so it can't get really understuffed. And well, the wings actually have a bit of stitching on the side of them to give them a more 3D look, and it also makes them just look more accurate to the game in general. And well, the wings are actually just stuck in this position, which is probably for the best, as well they would probably get understuffed pretty easily if they weren't just stuck in one position. And well, the legs are probably the worst part about this entire plush, since while they're really small, they could get understuffed pretty easily, especially in the feet. But yeah, besides that, the rest of the plush actually looks really good, and I do like the 3D extra detailing on the wings. Next up we have the Fire Spike. Now this is very similar to the bootleg Spike plush, except they just turned it red. But I actually really hate this design of the Spike plush as well. It just doesn't really look that good in my opinion. I think a Spike plush would just look better sitting down like the Snail one. As well, I just think that the lips on this plush are just way too big as well. Since the face is just really wide, it just makes the lips way too big as well. There's no gaps in between the sides of the face and the lips, which is supposed to be there as well, but it's there in the Snail plush, which is probably one of the reasons why the Snail plush looks better than the bootlegs. But yeah, the stitching on the face is pretty high quality, and the eyes don't really look that good in my opinion, but they're still high quality. And well, the hair is slightly understuffed, but that's probably on purpose to give it a more fiery look. But yeah, there really isn't anything else to say about this plush as well. It's basically an exact copy of the bootleg Spike plush, and all the proportions are accurate, and the rest of the plush is just red. Next up we have the Armad. Now this is one of the slightly more detailed enemy plushes, as though the Armad actually has a bit more details than most of the other enemies. Starting off, the embroidery on the eyes has to have a bit more detail, and I do like the outline of the color so it looks a bit more accurate. The head definitely has a very distinct shape, which is nicely stuffed so it could continue having an accurate looking shape which is accurate to the game. And well, just like the other plushes in the set, his shell actually has a bit more 3D detailing on it, and it's made by stitching. The only really bad thing about this plush is that for some reason around the middle of the shell, for some reason it just is stitched to the body, which doesn't really make a lot of sense as well. The entire shell on the top is stitched to the body, so I don't really know why the sides, especially in the middle of the sides, are stitched to the body as well, but kind of makes it look a bit weirder. But besides that, every other detail on this plush is great, and the legs can't actually get that understuffed as well, they're not long enough. And they also continue to be the exact same size throughout the entire leg, which is another reason why the legs can't really get understuffed. But yeah, this enemy definitely does have a bit more detail, especially on the shell, so yeah, it overall looks really good. Moving on, we have the Shova. Now, the face on this plush actually looks really weird, as well the eyes are nicely stitched on, except the quality control could make them slightly off-centered, and they could sometimes be one lower and also one higher than the other. And well, the inside of the mouth is basically just a red piece of plush/felt material. It's just kind of a very similar material in between the two. And well, the helmet that this plush is wearing does actually have a bit of felt on the side of it, so it could collect debris and dust, and also the side of the helmet's hanging off of the head most of the time, so that could also get bent. And well, but in a lot of these plushes, you can actually see the side of the helmet getting bent, as well it got creased from getting bent so many times. The helmet could also most likely get unstitched from the head, as well as most likely just slightly stitched onto the plush as well. It just doesn't really seem that's too well stitched on, as well most of the helmet's just hanging off of the side of the head. But yeah, the rest of the plush's body is actually really accurate, and it's also really nicely stuffed, so it looks pretty good. And I do like that the palms are the only part of the plush that I read, instead of the entire hands being red as well. I would see most bootleg companies, instead of just making the extra detail, they would probably just change the entire hands to being a red color. But yeah, once again, the feet are pretty nicely stuffed so the plush could continue standing up, which is a common theme with all these plushes, which is also one really good thing about them. Moving on to the next plush, we have Out of My Way. Now, first off, I really have no idea why this enemy is called Out of My Way in the first place, as it was just kind of a weird name for an enemy. But yeah, for the design of the enemy, it doesn't really have too much detail, so obviously the plush doesn't really have a lot of details on it, as well the eyes are literally just white, so they're just nicely stitched on. And the red outline for the head is also really nicely stuffed, so it stands out from the rest of the plush. And the ears are also pretty nicely stuffed, so unless if you purposely push the stuffing into the plush, it can't really get understuffed. And the feet are nicely stuffed, as well the feet are actually like the majority of the plush, so obviously they have to be well stuffed so the plush could continue standing up. But yeah, it's definitely a very simplistic plush, but it's still a pretty nice looking one. Next up we have Prince Floran. Now this plush has a lot of small details on it, it's definitely one of the most detailed plushes of the entire set. And while the stitching on the face looks pretty nice and is pretty accurate to the game, and the nose on the plush is nicely stitched onto the face so it can't really fall off and is also nicely stuffed. The leaf just above his eyes also has a bit of stitching on it to give it a bit more detail, and it's also slightly understuffed, but that's on purpose to make it a bit more detailed looking. And the crown on the top of his head is actually really accurate looking, and I do like that the logo on the top of it is actually ironed on. And the only really bad thing about this plush is that the goldish looking material is actually pretty delicate. So that part of the plush could actually get damaged pretty easily, and the side of the crown could also get bent and damaged because it's basically made out of this exact same felt material. But yeah, for his clothes, the thing around his neck is also made out of this golden felt material, so it could also get bent and damaged pretty easily. And the rest of the plush is basically completely accurate to the game, it can't actually get damaged in any way, and his feet are pretty nicely stuffed, and same thing with the rest of the plush, so he continues to stand up, and he also just looks pretty good in my opinion. And it's definitely one of the most detailed plushes in the set, and it makes sense because it's more of a main character than the others. So they would obviously want to put a bit more work into a sort of main character than just a random character like Bulrush. Moving on to the newest plush released by the bootleggers, we have the Dark Bowser Jr. Now, interestingly, this plush was actually released with a new Dark Bowser plush, as well the Dark Bowser plush has existed for a while, but they recently released a new one, including this one with it. And this one actually has a lot more details on it, and it looks pretty good in my opinion, as the stitching on the face looks pretty nice, and the eyebrows are also really nicely stuffed. And same thing with the hair, and basically every single part of this plush is extremely accurate looking and really nicely stuffed. And the only really part of the plush that could damage is the bandana, as since it's made out of a sort of delicate material, it could get creased pretty easily. And once the bandana gets creased, it can't really get uncreased unless if you bend it in the opposite direction tons of times over, but that will most likely just make the crease worse. But yeah, Bowser Jr. without the bandana actually looks really strange, as his face just kind of cuts off at the bottom of it, as he just has a few teeth at the bottom of it, and in my opinion, it just looks really strange. As it just looks like they just kind of cut off the bottom of his face and just gave up with it, as I think they just assumed basically everyone would keep the bandana on and they wouldn't see that part of his face. And the shell on this plush is pretty nicely stuffed, and it basically has all the exact same details as the normal Bowser Jr. made by Snail. Except since this plush is just a lot bigger, they basically just enlarged the shell on it. But yeah, this plush actually has a lot of details on it, and for the front of the shell they actually have a bit of stitching to make the lines a bit more defined. But yeah, this is the most recent plush in the entire set, and they will most likely continue releasing more and more. Which is why I actually waited to make this video for a while, as I wanted the majority of the plushes to be released. As if I made this video a few months ago, there would be a lot less plushes than there is now. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please like and subscribe and comment down below which plush in this video is your favorite, and yeah, have a great day.